Hey everyone, my name is David Dunbar, or the Theme Park Evangelist. Before I start today's Life as a Working Disney Cast Member video, I wanted to take about 2 minutes to catch you guys up. So, this is my first video in probably a week or so. And you guys know I normally have many reasons why I don't always do YouTube videos. My reasons could be busy with work, stuff going on between me and the Ark Encounter, which is a relatively new thing, or just the fact that I'm still slightly tired from the vacation. Like, I never thought I would be that tired after getting back from Florida, but I would have to say that my most recent trip to Florida was probably the most exhausting trip I've ever taken to Florida, which is really strange. Like, I never would have thought it would have knocked the wind out of me that much. Because I came back and I still felt like I was drained even after taking a couple of days off here and there and just could never catch up. And then, of course, out of nowhere on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, I was like the day before, I was really excited about waking up the next day and putting on a green shirt I just bought that night before and wearing that to Meyer for work because they were allowing us to wear green to work that day. And then I went to bed late that night, so this is going to be a little longer than 2 minutes, so I apologize. But I'll get through this as quickly as I possibly can. So I went to bed late that night, right? And my stomach just started making this weird noise. Now, I normally would get Honey Nut Cheerio breath, as weird as it sounds, whenever I'm going to have really bad stomach problems, but I guess not this time. And I knew right then and there that I was getting a stomach virus. And it only got worse from there. I ended up spending most of the night in the bathroom. I would say I was probably in the bathroom for an equivalent of 3 to 4 hours. And then I finally got my stomach to calm down enough because I emptied out my stomach completely, if that says anything. And then from there, my body decided to start having chills, and I started having severe fatigue, like to the point where I had a hard time just even moving around in my bed, like, and even to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed very easily. It literally took everything out of me just to get out of my bed. That is insane. I've never felt that bad in like a long time. And then when I would get out of bed finally, I could only get out of bed for so long. Like, I had to get out of bed eventually to use the bathroom or go get something to drink. I just felt completely drained. I was just feeling so miserable that day. And I know it was just a 24-hour bug because it kept going from one thing to the other. And then I eventually got feverish. I think the highest my temperature got that day was 102. It was pretty bad. And that was later on the day, and it just pretty much went on through the rest of the day. Finally, at 2 in the morning the very next day, I was, I was pretty much 90% better. The only thing I was not completely better was my stomach. I would say my stomach was about 75% better. Only 75%. It was better enough that I was able to keep my food down for the majority of the day, and then by nighttime it went like that. It was just done. And everything that I had eaten that just went out of me. It was kind of weird. It was just all at once. I was like, okay. So, I decided to go back to bed. I tried to go get Pepto-Bismol from my roommate. Unfortunately, he didn't have any, so I decided to just sleep it off. And I think I slept for 11 hours last night. I think last night was the best I've slept in a long time. And it was so cold in my room, but I felt so great. And I wouldn't have said that back a couple of nights ago when I barely had anything going. Like, I only had my fan at low speed and I was freezing. I even had to turn up the temperature. So I honestly thought I had COVID. That's how bad I was the other day. Like, I'm not really surprised that my work would freak out the way they were. But yeah, um, I woke up finally this morning at noon, and This is probably the most I've slept all week. And this is probably the best and the most well rested and most comfortable I've felt all week. I know my body's still drained and worn out and exhausted since I've gotten back from Florida. I think I pushed myself too hard while I was down there. I know my body's not used to going all the time like TJ is. Like TJ can go all he wants, but my body likes to rest whenever it can. Because believe it or not, even though I do work 5 to 7 days a week, that doesn't mean that I'm like constantly going, even when I get home. I normally, like my roommates, I come home from work and I might get some dishes done, but I normally just sit down on my butt and I sit on my butt for the rest of the day. And I might get up here and there to like go get something to eat, but I would say I do as little as possible once my 8 hour shift is done. TJ may not do that as much, especially when I'm there. He feels the need to go, even when I'm there. He feels the need to run at a million miles per hour. Probably also why I have to spend less time with him when I'm down there because he feels this need to go all the time. I mean, I still want to go spend time with him. I still want to go down there whenever I can. I'm still going in October for a week. I'm literally flying down on September 30th and flying back on October 7th, exactly 1 week. And that'll probably be the last time I spend a week down there. I'm still aiming to spend a week down there again come late February of next year, but we'll see what happens. But I don't think I'll spend anything longer than that for future reference, especially since my body does need time to rest. As much as it is, or as hard as it is for TJ to believe that. Anyway, I don't know if he'll ever watch my video or not, but, Anyway, sorry that introduction was so long, but hopefully you guys can understand what's been going on with me. That's my reason this time for taking forever to get another YouTube video uploaded. So, if you're one of those people that wanted to skip over the boring introduction, now this is the part you want to skip to. So I'll make sure I leave that in the comment section below to skip to roughly the 8-minute section or 8-minute portion of the video to hear the actual Life as a Working Disney cast member discussion. So we're officially on chapter 2, so to speak, of my Toy Story Land time, like when I was working at Toy Story Land. So this part is going to be a little different. So you know how the Disney cast members will probably say every single portion of working at Walt Disney World is going to be very different from the others, and this is not very surprising, right? So I would not say that working at Toy Story Land was exactly the same thing as working at Tomorrowland whatsoever. Like even working at Tomorrowland Speedway versus working at Alien Swirling Saucers. When I worked at Tomorrowland Speedway, I always felt like I was in this very happy atmosphere where it was always busy, bustling, going all the time, where you would smell gasoline fumes. It was one of those areas where almost everybody knew each other because Tomorrowland, it was like one big happy family. Then I went over to Toy Story Land, and this is where it got a little different. So Toy Story Land is still relatively new, and I could tell. I still felt like people knew each other over there because it wasn't a very big land, but I still felt like people did not know each other that well either. This is also how or what I noticed too. When I worked at Tomorrowland Speedway, pretty much everybody at Tomorrowland Speedway and Space Mountain practically knew each other. And then if you worked over at Alien Swirling Saucers, everybody Alien Swirling Saucers and Slinky Dog Dash knew each other. And then Toy Story Mania, they were their own separate category. You didn't really know anybody over at Toy Story Mania whatsoever. Back in the day, about 16 years ago, when Toy Story Mania first opened, it was called Toy Story Midway Mania, and that was the introduction to Toy Story Land. There was no like foresight of Toy Story Land being a thing back about 16 years ago, and Disney didn't actually make that decision until the early mid 2010s, and that's when they decided, well, we're going to go ahead and make a Toy Story Land. We're going to add on to Toy Story Midway Mania, and we're going to even change the name of Toy Story Midway Mania. And not just that, we're also going to tear out the old entrance to Toy Story Midway Mania, and we're going to move it to the other side of it. And that way, everybody in Toy Story Land will be able to enter, and then we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with the old area. So the original area where Toy Story Midway Mania was in was called Pixar Place, and that eventually became the Incredible Expo, which honestly to me was a complete waste of time. But hey, I mean that was Disney's idea. I mean, there's some cool things over there. I would, if I were you, if you ever go to Disney's Hollywood Studios in the future and you really want to see what they did with it, go get a Num Num cookie from the Incredible Land Expo. To me, that was probably one of the coolest things they've done with the area, and the fact that you can meet Edna Mode. I wouldn't say that was a horrible idea. I think it was a complete waste of time, but that's about as far as I'll go. But at the same time, I don't think it was horrible either. So I know they both probably sound about the same. Horrible, complete waste of time, but I mean, hey, it could have been worse, but hey, it could have been better either. So I'll keep it neutral, I guess you could say. But that gives you guys a little bit of a history on kind of how Toy Story Land started. Now back to my story. So, like, whenever I was working at the front of Toy Story, well, I shouldn't say Toy Story Mania, sorry, Alien Swirling Saucers, that's where I really noticed that things were just not the same. Every now and then you would see Slinky going by. It was a very quiet land. Like, I don't know about everybody else. Sorry, I got a notification. Oh, it's just Facebook. Don't worry about it. It's just my Facebook. But yeah, I don't know what it was about Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom, there was always something going on everywhere. We were, of course, probably one of the closest sections to the Cinderella Castle, so I could always hear everything that was going on over at the Castle Forecourt stage. But yeah, where I was, it was so quiet all the time. It seemed like kind of dismal and boring where I worked. Like, nothing really exciting was ever happening. Even though we were close enough to the Chinese theater that we could see the Star Wars fireworks show going off back in the day when they were actually doing that stuff, I still felt like it wasn't a very exciting area to work at. And that's really the best way to put it. And then, of course, back in the day, there was no Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, so once you got to Alien Swirling Saucers, you pretty much hit a dead end. And honestly, I feel like the only reason why Alien Swirling Saucers even got remotely any kind of attention back in the day is because it was one of the last things you would hit in Toy Story Land before guests would go, oh, there's nothing else to do. I might as well go do this and then head out from there. I had guests complain to me that they thought Toy Story Land would be like a giant playground, or like a giant playground for the kids, and all there is are these 3 rides, and that was it. And it's like, what are you supposed to tell these guys, you know? I mean, I always felt horrible for them. A lot of guests had false interpretations of Toy Story Land based on what they run online. I heard all about it just working up front. I felt like when I was working at Magic Kingdom, I wasn't getting as many guest complaints about what there was to do for the kids versus when I was working at Toy Story Land. It was this and that. Even when I was working in food and beverage back in the day when there was even less to do back before Toy Story Land showed up, I got even more complaints. And then you would think the complaints would end as soon as Toy Story Land opened. No, they still didn't end. It makes you wonder, how many complaints are we getting even? Are they getting even now with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge open? It's hard to say, and I know with all this COVID stuff going on, I don't even want to imagine what kind of complaints they're getting. It's got to be crazy. I personally think Hollywood Studios has immensely improved since I first worked there back in 2017, 4 years ago. But even then, I know Hollywood Studios has some work to do. I mean, it could be worse. You could be working at Epcot, which has the least amount to do, which I wouldn't have said that about 2 years ago when I last worked there. But we'll get there very soon, because that's actually the last chapter I have to talk about, which is my time working at Epcot, and you'll get to hear what there was to do at Epcot back in the day. Sounds like the cat's still on here. I forgot about the cat. Anyway, yeah, I would say that Toy Story Land had its pros and cons. I love the fact that Alien Swirling Saucers was a modern attraction, so it had all kinds of safety features. I did like the fact that it was very similar in design to Slinky Dog Dash. I did like the fact that you were super close to Slinky Dog Dash, so I was still able to see it. And I always was like kind of envious whenever I worked at Alien Swirling Saucers, because deep down inside I was always thinking to myself, I really wish I was working at the coaster. I'm sure it was a lot harder to work at than Alien Swirling Saucers. But that was always one of my dreams working at Walt Disney World was, man, wish I could operate a roller coaster. Now, ironically, I did actually have that opportunity working at Tomorrowland. A manager did say I could work at Space Mountain if I wanted to. I always had that false impression in my mind I could never do it because I always thought that Space Mountain would be too challenging versus something like Slinky Dog Dash, which is more modern and has a lot of advanced safety features, would be a lot easier for me versus Space Mountain, which is a lot older, would probably be a lot more challenging for me. So probably why I had that false impression in my mind. But you know how that is. I mean, otherwise, the only thing I could also say about working at Alien Swirling Saucers, even when I was not working up front, like, let's say I was doing something like stroller assist, what was there really to do? Watch the guests come in, take the stroller or the wheelchair, and I moved around. I still felt like it was in a boring atmosphere, and I mean, it was cool working at Toy Story Land, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as exciting as people made it sound to be. And I think a lot of people had that false impression about Toy Story Land because some people had left going, oh, this isn't what I thought it would be at all. And they were right. And I definitely would say that working at Magic Kingdom was definitely a lot more exciting, a lot more fast paced, a lot more upbeat, I guess you could even say, versus like even another thing I noticed working at Toy Story Land, one of the most exciting things that even happened was like once every 30 minutes the green soldiers, green army soldiers or whatever would come out and they would put on a performance. It was kind of cool being so close to them, and obviously, you can't interfere, but it was still kind of cool being like near them. And one time I did get to go to the manager's office, and I did get to go and kind of see them in person. Of course, these guys are all paid a lot more than I was, so the way character performers are is unless you make as much as them and you're a cast member, they don't really have anything to do with you. But if you're a guest, they'll go to the ends of the earth for you. As soon as they go out in the park, they will go out of their way to look for you. And that's just kind of the way character performers are. They don't usually interact with other cast members unless you work with them. Like if you're another character performer or you are a character attendant, then they'll have something to do with you. Otherwise, they don't usually talk to you. They don't. I wouldn't say they're rude to you. They just kind of keep to themselves once they're in their trailers or whatever, because they have these really nice trailers that they usually stay in when they're not in the park, spending time with the guests. It's kind of cool that they get this nice luxurious treatment, you could say. But I only got to really hang out with the character performers, you could say, at Toy Story Land a couple of times versus at Magic Kingdom. Unfortunately, I never got to see them. And even if I did, it was only on the odd occasion I would pass by them in the utilidors. And they were a lot friendlier for whatever reason at Magic Kingdom. Like, these seemed to know everybody. And they were very friendly towards everybody. So that was another reason why I kind of miss Magic Kingdom. Versus, I don't know what it was about Hollywood Studios. They kept more to themselves. So I guess it all depends on where you work. But you know how that is. But hey, what are you going to do, you know? And I think a lot of it has to do with who the character is. Like, obviously, if it's like Mickey or Goofy or Minnie or somebody like that, of course these guys are going to be friendly. If it's the Green Army soldiers, why would they want to be friends with everybody unless they're guests? I mean, come on. And most of the characters at Magic Kingdom are friends of everybody, even if whether you're a guest or not. That's just usually the way it is. I wish I had the chance to meet the guys who do the whole move it, shake it, mask it, dance it parade at Magic Kingdom. They seem pretty cool too. Even um, I wish I could have bumped into Stitch while I was working at Magic Kingdom. Well, actually, I technically take that back. I remember seeing Stitch a couple of times, and Stitch was very friendly whenever I was working at Tomorrowland Speedway. There was a couple of times I would do rope drop, and Stitch would go out of his way to say hey to everybody, including the cast members. So, yeah, in some ways, I definitely would say that I liked my Magic Kingdom days better, especially with the character performers versus at Hollywood Studios. I don't know. Like it was kind of cool being in Toy Story Land in the sense that I got to work where the whole backlot tour used to be and the Catastrophe Canyon used to be. At least I could say that I worked in that area. You could see Tower of Terror from where we were and a couple of other things. I on the odd occasion would go over to Woody's lunchbox for a few things. And I'll note these while I'm discussing this area. I got to be friends with one of the managers, and he actually did allow me to work at Toy Story Mania a couple of times. I would get to clean the 3D glasses and, well, actually not really clean them, but organize them. So I thought that was kind of cool that he let me do that. So once again, I wouldn't say my whole time at Toy Story Land was a complete waste of time. I mean, there was, the couple of things that brightened it, and he went out of his way to tell me he missed me when I wasn't there. I would say it was because of Peter that I really enjoyed working at Toy Story Land, and then the cast members that I met while I was there, especially the couple of them that I still even talk to this day, and we're talking guys I've known for a couple of years now that I still talk to this day. And the fact that I only knew them for 2 months, and yet I built such a strong friendship with them that I still um, have a solid friendship with them now. That says a lot right there. I also have to thank another manager, even though he and I had a got started off on a really good note. Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worst, and he and I end up leaving on each other on a bad note. But I do have to thank him for the fact that he did allow me to work on strollers, not just well, obviously I would do it at my own attraction, but I also got to push strollers over at the other two attractions as well. So at least I could say I worked at all three attractions, so to speak, without actually doing everything. I would say I spent more time over at Toy Story Mania than anywhere else. I felt like I was definitely the most involved over there for sure. But anyways, I mean, otherwise, I would say one of my favorite moments working at Toy Story Land, if you guys were ever curious, before we go on to the next chapter, we did a Christmas party on Christmas Day. And I would probably say this was probably a bigger highlight for me than working at Magic Kingdom back on Christmas Day last year. I mean, not last year, sorry. The year I was working in Magic Kingdom, that is. Last year, I was off on Christmas and it was actually freezing. Anyway, but yeah, the year I worked at Magic Kingdom, I would say that was a really nice Christmas. But the year I worked at Toy Story Land on Christmas Day, I even though it was only a 6 hour shift, it was kind of cool. We did a potluck. Everybody brought something, and we kind of did our own Christmas party. I think I got double time that day because it was like my sixth day in a row, and I worked a really nice shift. I worked like 10 in the morning till like 4 in the afternoon or something like that, and then I ended up taking the toll road all the way out to the Loop area, which is a big mall in the Kissimmee, Orlando area, and I went and saw my family. I spent the rest of the night with my family. We had this like big family reunion for Christmas, and then I ended up driving myself home from there. But I'll never forget that day. That was actually a really, really good day, and that was probably one of my favorite memories at Toy Story Land. And then, of course, just getting to know everybody. So I'm not 100% sure what my next chapter is, but I'm very sure it has something to do with learning the positions at Alien Swirling Saucers. So since my brother's still upstairs working out, I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. So I will see you guys in the next chapter. And always remember, you can, or the next vlog, really. And always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great night. Peace out.